we're taking a closer look at a classic beauty that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1974 Ford Mustang II. This turquoise gem is priced at $5,700, and it's definitely worth considering if you're in the market for a vintage ride with some serious character. Now, let's dive into the details. This Mustang II is powered by a 2.3-liter, 4-cylinder engine and comes with a manual transmission, which is perfect for those who love the feeling of being in complete control of their car. The seller mentions that the engine has potential, so if you're handy with a wrench, you might be able to unleash even more power from this classic pony car. One of the standout features of this Mustang II is its original interior. The classic Ford pony seats are still intact, and the shag carpet adds a touch of 70s nostalgia that's hard to resist. The paint is also original, and while it's showing some signs of fading, a good high-speed buff could help restore its shine. There are a few dings on the exterior, but nothing that detracts too much from the overall appearance of the car. It's worth noting that this Mustang II has a salvage title, but the seller seems unsure as to why. They mention that the car's body is straight and shows no visible signs of stress or damage. This is definitely something to keep in mind and investigate further if you're seriously considering making an offer. Mechanically, the seller reports that the Mustang II runs great, with no issues in the manual transmission or clutch. The car has also received some recent upgrades, including new brakes, struts, and shocks, which is always a plus when buying a classic car. Overall, this 1974 Ford Mustang II presents a unique opportunity for collectors and enthusiasts alike. While it may not be in perfect condition, it has a lot of original charm and potential for someone willing to put in a little work. If you're ready to take on a classic project car with a bit of 70s flair, this turquoise beauty might just be the one for you. 2. We're taking a closer look at a 1974 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's currently available on Craigslist for $4,240. This classic ride has a lot of potential, but it's important to note that it does require some work to bring it back to its former glory. First off, let's talk about the positives. The seller mentions that this Monte Carlo runs great and has a perfectly straight body, which is a huge plus for any classic car. It also comes with new tires and a new radiator, so you won't have to worry about those items right off the bat. The odometer shows just 73,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. One of the most interesting features of this particular Monte Carlo is the factory sunroof, which is a pretty unusual find. It's a cool addition that sets this car apart from other models of the same era. Now, let's address the areas that need some attention. The seller is upfront about the fact that the vinyl top and paint job need to be redone. While this may seem like a daunting task, it's actually a great opportunity to customize the car to your liking. The seller also mentions that they have all of the trim pieces, including many new ones, which will come in handy during the restoration process. It's worth noting that the car does have some rust, but the seller describes it as very little. As with any classic car, it's important to inspect the extent of the rust carefully to ensure that it's not a more significant issue than the seller lets on. The Monte Carlo comes with shop manuals, which is a great resource to have when working on a classic car. It shows that the seller has been invested in maintaining and caring for this vehicle. Overall, this 1974 Chevrolet Monte Carlo presents a solid opportunity for someone who's willing to put in some work to restore it to its full potential. With its straight body, low mileage, and unique factory sunroof, it has the makings of a true classic. If you're up for a project and have the cash on hand, as the seller specifies, this could be the perfect car to add to your collection. Just be sure to thoroughly inspect the car and consider the cost of the necessary repairs before making a final decision. 3. We've got a real treat for you, a 1973 Ford Thunderbird that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $10,500, and from what the seller tells us, it seems to be a pretty solid investment for any collector or vintage car lover. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 429 V8 engine, which is a real beast of a motor. The seller mentions that the car runs well, so you can expect a smooth and thrilling ride when you get behind the wheel. One of the most impressive aspects of this Thunderbird is its condition. The seller states that both the exterior and interior are in very good shape. For a car that's nearly 50 years old, that's a real testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. It's always a joy to find a classic car that's been maintained with such dedication. The odometer shows just 47,600 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. This suggests that the car hasn't been driven excessively and has likely been stored properly throughout its life. The Thunderbird sports a beautiful brown paint job, which is a color that really embodies the 1970s aesthetic. It's a shade that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. As for the technical details, this T-Bird comes with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, which is exactly what you'd expect from a classic American luxury car like this. Overall, this 1973 Ford Thunderbird seems to be a fantastic opportunity for anyone who appreciates vintage automobiles. With its powerful engine, well-maintained condition, and low mileage, it's a car that's sure to provide plenty of enjoyment both on the road and at car shows. If you're looking for a stylish and reliable classic to add to your collection, this Thunderbird is definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared to act fast. A car like this isn't likely to stay on the market for long. 4. We've got an interesting find on Craigslist, a 1972 Ford Maverick that's waiting for the right person to bring it back to life. This classic ride is priced at $3,900, and while it does need some work, it has the potential to be an amazing project car. First off, let's talk about the condition of the body. The seller mentions that the Maverick sports its original paint, which is in great shape. That's pretty impressive for a car that's nearly 50 years old. The body itself is also described as being very straight and clean, which is a huge plus. It's always easier to start with a solid foundation when taking on a project like this. Now, here's where things get a bit more challenging. The seller is upfront about the fact that the car currently has no engine or transmission. This means that you'll need to source these components separately, which can be a significant additional cost. However, if you're up for the challenge and have the mechanical know-how, this could be a great opportunity to build the Maverick of your dreams. One cool feature of this particular Maverick is the 5-lug disc brake conversion on the front, which is all new. This is a great upgrade that will improve the car's stopping power and overall performance. The rear end is a 9-inch unit, which is known for its strength and durability. The seller notes that this Maverick is not an original grabber model, but it does have the grabber spoiler on the back, which adds a sporty touch to the car's appearance. It's worth mentioning that there are some minor rust spots in the lower rear quarter panels, which the seller attributes to a leaking rear window seal. While this is something to keep in mind, it doesn't sound like a deal breaker, especially if you're planning on doing some body work anyway. The Maverick's history is also appealing. It was originally a California car and now has a clean Arizona title. This suggests that it's likely been spared from the harsh winters and road salt that can cause serious rust issues in other parts of the country. Overall, this 1972 Ford Maverick presents an exciting opportunity for someone who's looking for a project car with plenty of potential. While it does require an engine and transmission, the solid body and upgraded features make it a great starting point for a custom build. If you've got the skills, the space, and the passion for classic cars, this Maverick could be the perfect canvas for your automotive masterpiece. Just be sure to carefully consider the additional costs and work involved before diving in. 5. We've got a real gem to share with you. A 1953 Chrysler Windsor that's currently up for sale on Craigslist. The seller is asking $10,000 or best offer for this vintage beauty, and from what they've described, it seems like it could be a fantastic project car for the right enthusiast. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Windsor. The seller mentions that it's super clean both inside and out, which is always a huge plus when you're dealing with a car that's nearly 70 years old. They also note that it's all original, which is music to the ears of any classic car purist. Now, it's important to note that the car is currently not running. This means that it will require some work to get it back on the road, but for many enthusiasts, that's half the fun. The seller describes it as a good project vehicle, which suggests that it has a solid foundation and isn't a complete basket case. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine, which was a common power plant for the Windsor model. The car also features a manual transmission and rear-wheel drive, which is exactly what you'd expect from a classic American car of this era. The odometer shows just 39,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. Of course, it's always possible that the odometer has rolled over or been replaced at some point, so it's important to verify the car's actual mileage. One thing to keep in mind is that the buyer will need to arrange for pickup of the car, as the seller isn't offering delivery. This is pretty standard for a non-running vehicle, but it's something to consider when planning your budget and logistics. Overall, this 1953 Chrysler Windsor seems like a promising project car for someone who has the skills, space, and passion to bring it back to life. While it does need work to get it running again, the clean and original condition of the car makes it an attractive starting point. If you're looking for a vintage ride to restore and make your own, this Windsor is definitely worth a closer look. Just be sure to carefully consider the costs and time involved in getting it back on the road before making an offer. And remember, the seller is asking for calls only, no texts. So be prepared to have a good old-fashioned phone conversation if you're serious about this classic Chrysler. 6. We've got a real treat for you, a stunning 1977 Lincoln Mark V that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. The seller is asking $15,000 for this luxurious ride, and based on the description, it seems like it could be a fantastic addition to any collection. First off, let's talk about the history of this Mark V. The seller mentions that it's an Arizona car, which is a huge plus. Cars from dry states like Arizona tend to have less rust and weather-related damage, so this Lincoln has likely been spared from the ravages of harsh winters and humid summers. One of the most impressive aspects of this Mark V is its incredibly low mileage. The odometer shows just 76,000 original miles, which is remarkably low for a car that's over 40 years old. This suggests that the car has been well cared for and hasn't been subjected to excessive wear and tear. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 460 V8 engine, which is a true powerhouse. The seller notes that the car runs and drives great, so you can expect a smooth and powerful ride when you get behind the wheel. As you'd expect from a top-of-the-line Lincoln, this Mark V is loaded with features. It's got power everything, which means you can enjoy the convenience of power windows, locks, seats, and more. One particularly cool feature is the gold-tinted moonroof, which adds a touch of vintage style and lets you enjoy the open air while cruising down the road. The seller also mentions that the car has new tires, which is always a plus. New tires can be a significant expense, so it's nice to know that you won't have to worry about replacing them right away. Finally, the car has been outfitted with a custom stereo system. While the specifics aren't mentioned, it's always fun to have a modern audio setup in a classic car, as long as it's been installed tastefully and doesn't detract from the vehicle's original character. Overall, this 1977 Lincoln Mark V seems like an outstanding opportunity for anyone who appreciates the style, luxury, and performance of classic American cars. With its low mileage, Arizona history, and well-maintained condition, it's a car that's sure to turn heads and provide plenty of enjoyment for years to come. If you've been searching for a vintage ride that combines classic elegance with modern conveniences, this Mark V is definitely worth a closer look. Just be prepared to act fast. A car like this isn't likely to stay on the market for long. 7. We've got a real gem to share with you. A 1978 Pontiac Bonneville that's currently up for sale on Craigslist. The seller is asking $10,000 for this vintage beauty, and based on the description, it seems like it could be a fantastic find for the right enthusiast. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Bonneville. The seller describes it as a nice car, which is always a good sign. They also mention that they are the second owner, which suggests that the car has been well cared for throughout its life. One of the most impressive aspects of this Bonneville is its originality. The seller notes that everything is original except for the tires and the stereo. For many classic car enthusiasts, originality is key, and it's great to see a vehicle that hasn't been heavily modified or altered from its factory condition. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine, which is exactly what you'd expect from a full-size American car of this era. The seller mentions that the car runs and drives, so you can expect a smooth and enjoyable experience when you get behind the wheel. The odometer shows just 25,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's over 40 years old. Of course, as with any classic car, it's important to verify the accuracy of the mileage and have the vehicle thoroughly inspected before making a purchase. The Bonneville sports a clean white paint job, which is a timeless and classic color choice. While the seller doesn't go into detail about the condition of the paint, the overall description suggests that it's in good shape. As for the technical details, this Bonneville comes with rear-wheel drive and an automatic transmission, which is standard fare for a car of this type and era. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller is looking for serious inquiries only. They ask that potential buyers call rather than email or text, which suggests that they want to have a more in-depth conversation about the car and ensure that it goes to a good home. Overall, this 1978 Pontiac Bonneville seems like a promising find for anyone who appreciates the style, comfort, and performance of classic American cars. With its low mileage, original condition, and well-maintained history, it's a car that's sure to turn heads and provide plenty of enjoyment for years to come. If you're in the market for a vintage ride that combines classic charm with a bit of modern convenience, like an updated stereo, this Bonneville is definitely worth a closer look. Just be sure to approach the seller with a serious and respectful attitude, and be prepared to have a good old-fashioned phone conversation to learn more about this beautiful Pontiac. 8. We've got a real treat for you. A 1964 Chevrolet El Camino that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. The seller is asking $13,500 for this vintage beauty, and based on the description, it seems like it could be a fantastic find for the right collector or enthusiast. First off, let's talk about the history of this El Camino. The seller mentions that it was elderly owned and cared for, which is always a good sign. Older owners tend to be more meticulous about maintenance and less likely to abuse their vehicles, so this El Camino has likely been treated with respect throughout its life. Under the hood, you'll find a 230 straight 6-cylinder engine, which is paired with a 3-speed manual transmission on the column. This classic powertrain combo is known for its reliability and efficiency, and the seller notes that the car gets good gas mileage as well. One of the most impressive aspects of this El Camino is its originality. The odometer shows just 96,492 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. The seller also mentions that the car has minimal rust, which is always a huge plus for any classic vehicle. The exterior of the El Camino has been treated to a few tasteful upgrades, including new 15 Dolan Ansin Sprint Mag wheels and new BF Goodrich radial TA tires with under 100 miles on them. The burgundy paint job is described as being in nice shape, giving this classic ride a sleek and stylish look. Inside, the interior is also said to be in nice condition, with a matching burgundy color scheme. The factory AM radio is still in place and works properly, adding to the car's vintage charm. While this El Camino doesn't have power steering, the seller notes that it steers nicely without it. They also mention that the car drives straight and true and is a pleasure to drive. In fact, the seller states that they wouldn't hesitate to drive this car across the country, which is a testament to its reliability and roadworthiness. Overall, this 1964 Chevrolet El Camino seems like a fantastic opportunity for anyone who appreciates the style, versatility, and charm of classic American vehicles. With its well-maintained condition, original powertrain, and tasteful upgrades, it's a car that's sure to turn heads and provide plenty of enjoyment for years to come. If you're in the market for a vintage ride that combines the practicality of a truck with the style of a classic car, this El Camino is definitely worth a closer look. Just be sure to reach out to the seller via phone or text to learn more and express your interest in this beautiful Chevy. 9. We're diving into a classic beauty that's been catching eyes on Craigslist, a 1949 Chevrolet, priced at $14,500. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a hefty price tag for an old ride. But hold on. Let's take a closer look at what this vintage gem has to offer. First off, the seller has been pretty upfront about the car's condition. It's not in perfect shape, but a lot of work has already been put into it. The electrical system has been completely revamped from nose to tail, and it's been converted to a 12 VI system. Plus, it's got a snazzy Pertronix distributor and a 2 BBL carb from Langdon's stove bolts. The radiator has been upgraded to aluminum, and it's got new upper and lower thermostat housings and a thermostat. So, you won't have to worry about overheating on those summer drives. Now, let's talk about the brakes. The seller mentions that they still need some bleeding, but hey, that's just a minor detail, right? The brake booster, cylinders, springs, and pads have all been replaced, so you know it's got some stopping power. The interior does need some TLC, but the seller has the window frames, and the dash is still in good condition. The floors have been replaced with sheet metal by the previous owner, but the seller admits it's not too bad. As for the exterior, there is some rust in the lower trunk, but the seller assures us that it's never been lowered or cut. The tires are old but still in good shape, and it needs a passenger side door glass. Now, here's the thing. The seller bought this car with no intention of restoring it. They just wanted to roll as is, but life got in the way, and they don't have the time for it anymore. That's where you come in. If you're up for a little project and want a classic ride that's got some character, this 1949 Chevrolet might be the one for you. Just remember, this car is being sold as is, and it's not in perfect condition. But if you're willing to put in some work and give this old beauty some love, you might just end up with a real head-turner. 10. We're checking out a 1983 Chevrolet Camaro that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $5,000. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, a '83 Camaro? Is that even worth looking at? But trust me, this one's got some surprises under the hood. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Camaro is a Z28 model, which means it's got some serious sports car cred. It's got a 305 V8 engine paired with a 700 R4 automatic transmission, so you know it's got some power behind it. The seller even mentions that the transmission has been professionally rebuilt, so you can feel confident that it's running smoothly. Now let's talk about the exterior. The paint color is a sleek black, and it's got those iconic T-tops that let you enjoy the wind in your hair on those summer drives. The seller has also upgraded the wheels to IROC 16 rims, which give it a nice aggressive look. And with new Cooper 245 tires, you know it's got some serious grip on the road. Under the hood, the seller has made some upgrades as well. It's got new ignition components and a new alternator, so you won't have to worry about any electrical issues. Plus, It's got a dual exhaust and a mild cam, which gives it a nice throaty sound when you rev the engine. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the odometer. The seller does mention that it has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. But with 157,000 miles on the clock, it's clear that this Camaro has been around the block a few times. However, the seller states that the overall condition of the car is good, so it seems like it's been well maintained throughout its life. So, what's the verdict? Is this 1983 Chevrolet Camaro worth the $5,000 asking price? In my opinion, if you're looking for a classic sports car with some serious personality, this one's definitely worth checking out. It's got a clean title, some nice upgrades, and a price tag that won't break the bank. Plus, with those T-tops and that throaty exhaust, you'll be turning heads wherever you go. But as always, I recommend taking a closer look at the car in person before making any decisions. Check for any signs of rust or damage, and make sure all the features are working properly. And if you do decide to take this Camaro home, be prepared to put in some work to keep it running smoothly. 11. We've got a real treat for you. A stunning 1979 Lincoln Town Car that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $8,500. Now, I know what you're thinking. A 79 Lincoln? Is that really worth my time? But trust me, this one's a real gem. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This town car has only 81,092 miles on the odometer, which is incredibly low for a car that's over 40 years old. And get this, it's being sold by only the second owner, which means it's likely been well cared for throughout its life. Now let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and from the looks of it, they're not exaggerating. The paint is a beautiful brown color that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And the best part? There's no rust to be found anywhere on this classic beauty. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that runs like a dream. The seller mentions that all items function as expected, with the exception of the clock. But hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? And with a clean title and tires that are in good shape, you can feel confident that this town car is ready to hit the road. But what really sets this car apart is its history. The seller mentions that they don't make them like this anymore, and they're absolutely right. This 1979 Lincoln Town Car is a true classic, with a style and craftsmanship that's hard to find in modern cars. And with its low mileage and excellent condition, it's clear that this car has been cherished by its previous owners. So, what's the verdict? Is this 1979 Lincoln Town Car worth the $8,500 asking price? In my opinion, absolutely. This is a rare opportunity to own a piece of automotive history that's in incredible condition. And with its classic style and powerful engine, it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 12. We're taking a look at a 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's up for grabs on Craigslist. The seller is asking $12,500 for this classic ride, but they're also open to offers. So, let's dive in and see what this Monte Carlo is all about. First off, let's address the condition. The seller describes it as fair, which is a pretty honest assessment. This car is over 40 years old, so it's bound to have some wear and tear. But don't let that discourage you. The seller also mentions that there are lots of new parts on this Monte Carlo, so it's clear that they've put some work into keeping it running smoothly. Under the hood, you'll find a V6 engine, which is a bit of a departure from the V8 engines that Monte Carlos are known for. But hey, a V6 can still provide plenty of power, and it might even save you a bit of money at the gas pump. The odometer shows 97,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age, and with a clean title, you can feel confident that this Monte Carlo has a clear history. Now let's talk about the price. $12,500 is definitely on the higher end for a 1978 Monte Carlo, especially one that's described as being in fair condition. However, the seller is open to offers, so there may be some room for negotiation. And if this is your dream car, it might be worth paying a little extra to get your hands on it. Of course, as with any used car purchase, I always recommend taking a closer look in person before making a decision. Check for any signs of rust or damage, and make sure all the features are working properly. And, if possible, take it for a test drive to get a feel for how it handles on the road. So what's the verdict? Is this 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo worth the asking price? It really depends on your personal preferences and budget. If you're a die-hard Monte Carlo fan, and you've been searching for a classic ride with lots of new parts, this one might be worth checking out. But if you're looking for a car in pristine condition, you might want to keep searching. 13. We've got a real treat for you. A 1976 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray that's up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this isn't just any ordinary Corvette. This one's got a story that'll make your jaw drop. First off, let's talk about the history of this beauty. It was purchased brand new back in July of 1975 by its one and only owner. That's right, this Corvette has had the same owner for over 45 years. And get this, it might even be the last produced Corvette of the 1976 model year, making it the last one to bear the iconic Stingray badge. Now, let's talk about the specs. This Corvette is loaded with every option that was available back in 1976. It's got a powerful 350 CI V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission, so you can cruise down the highway in style. And with power steering, power brakes, and air conditioning, you'll be riding in comfort no matter where you go. But what really sets this Corvette apart is its stunning appearance. It's finished in a sleek silver paint job with a rare smoke gray leather interior that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with those classic Goodyear white letter radial tires, it's got that perfect vintage look that Corvette enthusiasts crave. Of course, with a car that's over 45 years old, you might be worried about its condition. But fear not, my friends. The seller has made countless upgrades to keep this Corvette running like a dream. It's got a new radiator, hoses, belts, brakes, and steering components, as well as new engine gaskets. And with only 93,000 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this Corvette has been cherished and well maintained throughout its life. So, what's the catch? Well, the seller is asking $13,000 for this one-of-a-kind Corvette. And while that might seem like a steep price, let's put it into perspective. This is a piece of automotive history that's been meticulously cared for by its one and only owner. It's got every option you could want, a stunning appearance, and a story that'll make it the talk of any car show. Of course, as with any used car purchase, I always recommend taking a closer look in person before making a decision. But if everything checks out, I say go for it. This 1976 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray is a true gem that's worth every penny. 14. We're taking a trip down memory lane with a 1975 Chevrolet Malibu that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $12,000, and let me tell you, it's got a lot of charm that's hard to resist. First off, let's talk about the color. This Malibu is finished in a stunning baby blue paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. It's the kind of color that just screams vintage and will make you feel like you've stepped back in time to the 1970s. Now, let's talk about the specs. This Malibu is a four-door sedan, making it a practical choice for those who need a little extra space. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission, which is a common setup for cars of this era. And with rear-wheel drive, you'll get that classic muscle car feel that Chevy is known for. Inside, you'll find bench seats finished in vinyl that are in great condition with no tears. And while the radio may not work, everything else is said to be in working order. That means you can cruise around town in style and comfort, just like they did back in the day. But what really sets this Malibu apart is its history. It's been owned by a single owner who has garaged it every night, which is a testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. With only 99,000 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this Malibu has been cherished and maintained throughout its life. Of course, with any classic car, there may be some minor issues that need to be addressed. The seller notes that the radio doesn't work, but that's a relatively easy fix if you're handy with electronics. And as with any used car purchase, I always recommend taking a closer look in person before making a decision. So, is this 1975 Chevrolet Malibu worth the $12,000 asking price? That's up to you to decide. But if you're looking for a classic car with a lot of charm and a great history, this one is definitely worth considering. It's the kind of car that will make you feel like a kid again every time you get behind the wheel. 15. We've got a real treat for you. A 1959 Edsel Ranger that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $9,500. Now, I know what you might be thinking. An Edsel? Aren't those the cars that flopped harder than a fish out of water? But hear me out, because this Ranger is no ordinary Edsel. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and from the looks of it, they're not exaggerating. This Ranger is said to be a very clean, rust-free example that's ready to hit the road for cruise night. That's right, you could be rolling up to your local car meet in a piece of automotive history that's sure to turn heads. But what really sets this Ranger apart is the work that's been done to it. The seller has gone above and beyond to make sure this car is in top shape. It's got a new shaded windshield and gasket, a new battery, a new turn signal switch, new wheel cylinders and master cylinder, and even new door glasses and channel felt. That means you won't have to worry about any pesky leaks or electrical issues ruining your ride. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Ranger is basically a 1959 Galaxy in disguise, thanks to its Ford 232 six-cylinder engine. While it may not have the raw power of a V8, this engine is known for its reliability and efficiency. And with a manual transmission, you'll get to experience the thrill of shifting gears like they did back in the day. Of course, with any classic car, there may be some quirks and features that take some getting used to. The Edsel brand was known for its unique styling, including its infamous horse collar grille. But if you ask me, that's just part of the charm. This Ranger is a conversation starter on wheels, and you'll be sure to get plenty of compliments and questions wherever you go. So, is this 1959 Edsel Ranger worth the $9,500 asking price? In my opinion, absolutely. This is a rare opportunity to own a piece of automotive history that's been lovingly restored and maintained. And with all the work that's been done to it, you can rest assured that this Ranger is ready to hit the road for years to come. 16. We've got a real gem for you. A 1979 Lincoln Mark V that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $14,000 or best offer. And let me tell you, this isn't just any ordinary Lincoln. This one's got a story that'll make your jaw drop. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the details they've provided, I'm inclined to believe them. This Mark V has been stored in a garage since 1979, which means it's been protected from the elements and has likely been very well maintained over the years. But what really sets this Lincoln apart is its mileage. Are you ready for this? This Mark V has only 40,000 original miles on the odometer. That's right, 40,000 miles. To put that into perspective, that's an average of only 1,000 miles per year since it was built. That's the kind of low mileage that collectors dream about. Now, let's talk about the features. This Mark V comes with a vinyl hardtop, which gives it a sleek and sophisticated look. And under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's ready to roar to life. With an automatic transmission, you'll be able to cruise down the highway in style and comfort. The paint color is a beautiful blue that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with a clean title, you can rest assured that this Lincoln has a clear history and is ready to be enjoyed by its next owner. Of course, with any classic car, there may be some minor issues that need to be addressed. but based on the seller's description and the low mileage, I wouldn't expect anything major. And if you're handy with tools or know a good mechanic, any small fixes should be relatively easy to take care of. So, is this 1979 Lincoln Mark V worth the $14,000 asking price? In my opinion, it's a fair price for a car of this caliber. Low mileage classics like this one don't come around very often, and the fact that it's been garaged since 1979 is a testament to how well it's been cared for. 17. We've got a real treat for you, a 1975 Buick LeSabre convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $12,000. And let me tell you, if you're in the market for a classic cruiser that looks good and drives like a dream, this might just be the car for you. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the details they've provided, it's easy to see why. This LeSabre has been sitting in a garage for most of its life, which means it's been protected from the elements and has likely been very well maintained over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's ready to roar to life, and with only 80,000 miles on the odometer, this LeSabre has plenty of life left in it. The seller even mentions that it runs and drives like a brand new car, which is a testament to how well it's been cared for. But what really sets this LeSabre apart is its convertible top. There's nothing quite like cruising down the road with the wind in your hair and the sun on your face, and this LeSabre delivers that experience in spades. And with a clean title and newer tires, you can rest assured that this car is ready to hit the road at a moment's notice. Now, the seller does mention that the paint has some mismatching, but they also make it clear that this is a car for someone who's looking for a nice cruiser that looks good. If you're the type of person who can appreciate a classic car with a little bit of character, then this LeSabre might be right up your alley. Of course, with any used car purchase, I always recommend taking a closer look in person before making a decision. The seller even encourages potential buyers to come see the car for themselves, which is a good sign that they're confident in its condition. 18. We've got a real treat for you. A 1984 Cadillac Seville that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $4,800. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A 40-year-old car? What's the catch? But trust me, this beauty is worth a closer look. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller claims it's in good shape, and from the pictures, it's hard to argue. The interior looks practically brand new, which is pretty impressive for a car that's been around longer than most of us. However, it's important to note that the car does need a motor, and the seller mentions that it started blowing steam out of the tailpipe. So, while the overall condition might be solid, there are some mechanical issues to be aware of. But here's the thing, this isn't just any old car. It's a 1984 Cadillac Seville Roadster, and according to the seller, it's a rare find in this kind of shape. Apparently, the previous owner had it for nearly 3 decades and kept it in a heated garage, which explains the pristine interior. Under the hood, you'll find an 8-cylinder engine, and the car is front-wheel drive. The odometer shows 42,000 miles, but it's worth noting that it has rolled over, so the actual mileage is likely higher. The car has an automatic transmission and a clean title, which is always a plus. Now, I want to be straight with you. While this car might look great in the pictures, it's important to remember that it's not perfect. The mechanical issues are definitely something to consider, and it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But if you're a fan of classic cars and don't mind putting in a little work, this 1984 Cadillac Seville could be a real gem. The seller seems pretty confident in the car's condition and is even offering to send a video if you give them a call. So, if you're interested, it might be worth reaching out and getting a closer look. All in all, this 1984 Cadillac Seville is a unique find with a lot of potential. It's got a classic style, a beautiful interior, and a price tag that's pretty hard to beat. Just remember to go in with your eyes open and be prepared to put in some work to get it running like new again. 19. We've got a real treat for you. A 1970 Dodge Dart Swinger that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $7,500. This classic beauty is sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. First things first, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Dart is packing a built 340 engine with all the goodies. We're talking forged parts, Mopar components, a high lift cam, MSD ignition, headers, and more. It's clear that someone has put some serious work into this power plant, and it shows. The seller mentions that the engine has a strong, heavy cam lobe at idle, which is a good sign that it means business. Now, let's talk about the transmission. The car has a 904 automatic, but the seller notes that there's no stall converter installed at the moment. This is causing some issues with first gear and idling while stopped. But it's nothing that can't be fixed with the right parts and know-how. Moving on to the exterior, the Dart looks to be in solid condition. The seller doesn't mention any major rust or damage, which is always a good sign for a car of this age. It's riding on a fresh set of tires, so you won't have to worry about that expense right off the bat. One of the coolest features of this Dart is that it was originally a factory AC car. While the AC isn't currently connected, it's a great starting point for anyone looking to add some creature comforts to their classic ride. Underneath, the seller has installed new Moog steering parts, which is a great upgrade for anyone looking to improve the handling and drivability of their Dart. Last but not least, the seller mentions that the car has a clear title, which is always a big plus when buying a classic car. Now I want to be straight with you. This Dart isn't perfect. The transmission issues and disconnected AC are definitely things to consider before making a purchase. But for the right buyer, these could be seen as opportunities rather than deal breakers. Overall, this 1970 Dodge Dart Swinger is a solid classic car with a lot of potential. It's got a strong built engine, a clean title, and a great starting point for anyone looking to make it their own. If you're in the market for a vintage Mopar, this Dart is definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared to put in a little work to get it running and driving like a dream. 20. We've got a real gem for you. A 1961 Buick Electra that's up for sale on Craigslist for $14,800. This classic beauty has been converted to a GM 350/350 engine and transmission, making it a real powerhouse on the road. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller claims it's in good shape, and from the description, it sounds like they've taken good care of it. The car runs solid and has no leaks anywhere, which is always a good sign for a classic car. The seller does mention that the exhaust could use some work, as there's currently a Y pipe that hangs too low. They recommend running duals off the manifolds instead. One of the best things about this Electra is the lack of rust. The seller specifically mentions that there's no rust underneath anywhere, which is a huge plus for a car of this age. Rust can be a real problem for classic cars, so it's great to see that this one has been well maintained in that regard. The car has also been outfitted with new wheels and tires, which not only look great, but also ensure that it rides smoothly and safely on the road. Now, the seller does mention that the car could use a wet sand and polish to really make it shine. But even without that, this Electra is a real head-turner. The seller describes it as a cool car, and it's easy to see why. Under the hood, the GM 350/350 engine and transmission conversion is a real highlight. This setup is known for its reliability and power, so you can be sure that this Electra will be a blast to drive. The seller even goes so far as to say that it can drive anything, which is a testament to just how solid this car is. Lastly, the seller mentions that they have the title on hand, which is always a good thing when buying a classic car. No one wants to deal with the headache of trying to track down a missing title. Overall, this 1961 Buick Electra is a real find. It's got a solid engine and transmission, a rust-free body, and a clean title. While it could use a little bit of cosmetic work to really make it shine, it's clear that this car has been well maintained and loved over the years. If you're in the market for a classic Buick that's ready to hit the road, this Electra is definitely worth checking out.